because today we're going to be talking about payroll perfection for the holiday rush, managing the seasonal workforce dynamics. My name is Jericho Holton. I'm the product marketing manager here at Greenshades. I have a little background in HCM training as well as retail store management, and I'm glad to be here today.
And I'm Amber. I've been with Greenshades for around 5 years. I'm currently in the sales engineering position, but I've started off on the support side, so I'm pretty familiar with our products. And I'm also very excited to be here presenting with Jerica today.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. So today we're going to be covering some objectives that you guys can use with holiday season just around the corner. Processes to make your payroll, HR, tax, and compliance move smoothly. So first, we want to talk about integrating seasonal employees into your payroll. So integrating employees into your payroll solution can seem like a complex process, but with the right approach, it can become a lot more manageable. So first, you want to start by streamlining your onboarding process by collecting the necessary W-4s for tax withholding information, I-9s for employee verification, e-signatures for important documents and things of that sort. And also pay attention to where you're operating or where you're hiring your employees to make sure you're staying in compliance with certain laws around things such as e-verify. Then next, you want to set up your payroll solution for seasonal workers. So you want to be able to distinguish between your seasonal and regular employees by using separate payroll codes, maybe if you're paying them at a different rate. Make sure they're integrated into your payroll batches, or if you need a separate batch for those employees, making sure that that is set up. This will allow you to easily manage your pay, benefit, and deductions while maintaining compliance while you're running payroll. So next, you want to handle your benefits and deductions. So determine who is eligible for these benefits and deductions based off of if they're part-time, full-time, temporary employee versus a permanent employee. Seeing if they're eligible for benefits and making sure that you're staying compliant with things such as ACA coverage. Then you want to be able to track your hours and overtime accurately. So you need a reliable system that's able to capture that labor no matter where your employees are operating. So whether that's an outside physical timekeeping solution or like the Green Employee app, making sure that you're capturing that time, especially overtime as a seasonal shift can become really busy around the holiday times. And then next, you want to have everything ready for your end of season processes. And especially with this holiday season, as we close out the year, we are in those October, November, December months. So you want to make sure that all final paychecks are accurate and include any earned wages, overtime, unused benefits. And you want to be able to have all the information ready when it comes to preparing tax forms like W-2s and 1099s. So during the holiday season, you may be rehiring previous talent that you used during the previous year. And with Greenshades, we make it easy to reactivate employee records, including payroll and benefits information, allowing for a quick onboarding process with minimal hassle. When rehiring, it's important to go ahead and identify employees who are already in your system and use workflows that enable them to activate those inactive records rather than treating them as like your normal new hires. This transition can help the holiday season be a lot easier if you are bringing in talent that you have used before from previous years. I can definitely attest to this from being in the retail industry, especially during the busy holiday season. We have definitely had times where we have hired and rehired talent that we used from years before during the busy end of year season from 4th of July to special holidays. So we worked with a company called Parks Marina who was able to leverage Greenshades in-house payroll solutions during their holiday shifts and easily get their employees integrated into their payroll solutions, into their benefits, and into their timekeeping piece. With Parks Marina, they were able to save around $50,000 with being able to not have to manually insert in all this information, automating the payroll processes. So for any of their seasonal workforce, they're able to set up those pay codes in the back end, the benefits in the back end, automate bringing in those timekeeping pieces. So their payroll was smooth and seamless throughout the year. Now passing over to Amber.
Awesome. And thank you, Jerica. Now we're going to discuss some of the best practices for holiday pay, bonuses, and PTO. We'll start off with some interesting statistics about PTO. So, 4 out of 10 employees don't typically utilize all of their paid time off. We see employees feeling a sense of guilt when they're using their time off, and a number of employees actually report working during their vacation time. Next, the average American worker typically gets 10 or 11 days of paid vacation per year. Some states do have different regulations around required PTO, and in states like New York, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, and Connecticut, the average employee enjoys an average of around 11.4 days of PTO per year. And finally, we see that 31% of employees report mandatory paid time off as a top benefit to offer. Mandatory PTO means that the workers are required by their employer to take a certain amount of time off. Mandatory PTO does vary by organization to organization. Some companies may require employees to take off a certain amount of time monthly, quarterly, or annually. But by requiring employees to take that time off, they help alleviate some of those guilt feelings that employees have when they utilize their time.
Amber, I always think it's interesting that not a lot of employees utilize their paid time off, especially when they have unlimited PTO. I think it comes with a sense of they don't want to feel like they're abusing the system, even though it is a benefit offered to them, versus when they have like a determined PTO balance amount, where they feel like they earn the hours off hours given to them.
Yeah, and actually, we see a higher number of employees not using their PTO in organizations where they have an unlimited policy.
Very interesting.
And so now let's move on to some tips for managing PTO policies. It's important to have a good policy in place to ensure that the process is smooth from both the employee and the admin side of things. So you're going to want to make sure you have a well-defined policy, and sharing that policy during the recruitment process and during onboarding is a really great idea to help ensure that everyone understands PTO and what's expected. You should consider collecting e-signatures for any onboarding employees to ensure that they've actually reviewed that policy and have a firm understanding of it. In your policy communication, you're also going to want to make sure that you clearly define the various types of PTO that you offer your employees. So you may have vacation and sick leave that can be used at the employee's discretion. You may also have holiday time, so any holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any others that you've defined in your policy will automatically be paid time off for your employees. And you may offer some other more flexible types of PTO, like paid bereavement leave that allows employees to take some time to grieve a personal loss. You're also going to want to make sure your employees understand how their PTO accrues, whether it's an annual, a monthly, or if it's accrual based on their hours worked, and what happens to that time if they don't actually utilize it. So you may allow employees to cash out their PTO time for actual pay or additional compensation, or they may be able to roll over that PTO into the following year. Some policies also require employees to forfeit any time off, so you're going to want to make sure you define that clearly so employees understand what happens if they don't actually take that time. And then it's always a great idea to have a clear process for requesting PTO. So you make sure that your employees can understand how they can actually submit their time off requests and what they should expect from their managers as they go through and approve those time off requests. And of course, it's never a bad idea to remind your employees about your policies. So sending out reminders quarterly or encouraging your employees to take time off is always a great idea. And if you have any changes to your policies, making sure that you clearly communicate those changes to all employees is very important.
Remember, one thing I always found helpful when I was working in retail is during the holiday season when there's a lot of back-to-back holidays like we have coming up. We used to always print out a calendar or have something where the employees can put the time they want off, and it's like a first come, first serve basis. So we can make sure we have the proper coverage while still accommodating the PTO requests from our employees.
Yeah, that's always a great idea. So now let's discuss some tools for handling PTO accruals. During the busy holiday season, employees often want to take last minute days off. So allowing employees to do things like shift swap or trade shifts will save admins and managers a lot of time on actually reworking the schedule. Sharing team time off also helps managers and employees understand what sort of coverage they're going to have for the day. And like you mentioned, Jerica, displaying that time off on a calendar can help employees understand when they may be able to take time off or why a time off request may not be approved. With our time off module, it's easy for both employees and managers to handle time off requests electronically. So employees can submit those requests from their mobile phone or from the website, and managers can review those requests, approve and deny as needed. If they need to make any changes to the original request, they can easily go in and make those changes as well. And they can communicate back to employees. So if they aren't able to approve the full request, or if they need to modify it in some reason, they can provide some commentary to the employees so they can understand why those decisions were made. And as I mentioned in previous slides as well, paid sick leave does vary based on work location. So some states do have different accrual rules and policies that they require organizations operating in their state to follow. So these various accrual rules can be pretty overwhelming and challenging for employers to manage. Having some sort of automation can help out with ensuring that those accruals are being handled appropriately. With our time off module, Greenshades allows users to set up various time off accrual rules based on work location so that employees can accrue time off based on what's required by the states and the locations that they're working in. In the future, we do have some geocode functionality planned so that employees will automatically have the relevant time off codes applied to them based on their work location so they can start accruing those time if they ever do expand their work to various locations with different rules.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool tool because paid sick leave has been such a hot topic when it comes to compliance, especially as different states take on different approaches to how they want to handle paid sick leave. I think this will be a really great tool for employers.
Yeah, absolutely. And while it can get a bit overwhelming from the employer side of things with those various accrual rates, the employee is
Mhm.
just going to see one accrual bucket that they can take time out of. So it simplifies
Mhm.
it for both the admin and the employee. And as I mentioned, there are mandatory PTO laws for various states and various areas. So some local jurisdictions do also have PTO laws in place. One big law around time off is the FMLA, which entitles eligible employees of covered employers to take unpaid job protective leave for specific family and medical reasons without losing their group health insurance coverage. So as an employer, it's important to understand if you're one of those covered employers who must abide by the FMLA, and also to understand what situations and circumstances employees are entitled to take leave for. Federal law also doesn't require employers to provide employees with paid leave for jury duty, but those laws do vary by state. So some states do have laws protecting employees from being fired or penalized while serving jury duty, and some have laws that allow employees to utilize any PTO they might have for jury duty, like Alabama and Nebraska. Paid time off payout also varies by state. So while some organizations utilize a use it or lose it policy for any PTO, there are some states where employers are required to pay out any unused paid time out to employees. And now let's get into holiday pay management, key steps. So you're always going to want to make sure you understand the legal requirements when you're handling paid time off. For example, federal law doesn't require employees to pay extra for working on holidays, but some states do have specific regulations, such as additional pay for time off, like, or for holidays, like time and a half or double time for working on a federal holiday. And if you have any union contracts, you're going to want to make sure you review any collective bargaining agreements to see if there are any holiday pay provisions in there that you need to honor. You're also going to want to establish company policies. So we mentioned earlier that you should have a PTO policy in place. You should also have some sort of holiday pay policy so employees understand what they can expect to be paid when they actually work on a holiday. You may have regular holiday pay for employees that don't work on holidays like Christmas or New Year's Day. You may offer a premium for employees who do work on holidays, like time and a half or double time. You'll also want to ensure that any of those pay calculations are being automated to help reduce the risk of any calculation errors. So, with whatever payroll system you are utilizing, you're going to want to make sure that you're able to configure the system to automate any holiday calculations and ensure that it's accruing time off accordingly for any holidays or special time that you're logging.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how premium holiday pay, double pay, shift differentials can be a really good motivating factor for getting employees to work on some of those unpopular shifts. I know my sister, for example, for the 4th of July, she ended up getting double time for it. And she's like, there's no way I'm not working on the 4th of July. So you turn an unpopular work shift to something that employees are eager to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Some organizations have it set up so those are voluntary shifts, and
Mhm.
very often they don't have any issues finding coverage because employees see that as a great opportunity to earn a little extra cash around the holidays.
And nobody's ever mad at extra cash.
And so now we have some payroll best practices for commissions and bonuses. If you have recurring bonuses are on a monthly or quarterly basis, it's a good idea to set up payroll codes that are specific to those particular instances so that employees, when they're reviewing their pay statements, they can identify what those payments represent. And if there are recurring payments, setting those up in advance can help ensure that the calculations are pretty consistent. And if you build in the calculation rules to your system, it'll help reduce the risk of error. Providing detailed pay statements to employees is always crucial. Giving them self-service access through something like an employee portal helps employees stay aware of any pay that they're receiving and capable of pointing out any issues or discrepancies that they might be aware of. And accurate reporting is very important. So, being aware of any issues as soon as they come up can help ensure that you have a nice, smooth year end and that everything is accurate on your year end forms.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. So next we're going to talk about managing dynamic pay schedules and various pay types. So schedules during the busy season can get really hectic as people are requesting a lot of time off. A lot of employees, you need a more of a heavier labor force to deal with the increase in business. And so having the ability to Amber's point to be able to swap shifts, to be able to remain compliant for work shifts, again, going back to some of the retail experience, having things such as minors and making sure that we abided to minor laws, or having employees who may be on disability and making sure that we're scheduling them within their hours. So just making sure that you stay compliant and having that flexibility to schedule like you need to ensure the proper coverage across your departments and locations during the busy season is crucial. And that's where softwares like Slags can come into play and help you to cover those gaps and ensure that you remain compliant. So next, tackling complex payroll requirements. So you'll have a lot of different various pay types, whether it's hourly, salary, piecework, commission-based pay, project accounting pay, and being able to set this stuff up in the background with unlimited payroll codes allows you to account for any type of pay that you may run into during a busy season. And being able to attach those payroll codes in the beforehand can make your payroll processing a lot smoother. Also, being able to set up your pay schedules. If during the busy season, you may need different batches for your payroll, Maybe your pay schedule is a little different now. You have employees getting paid weekly. You have your normal employees to get paid bi-weekly. You're able to set up those payroll schedules to reflect the changes in your business on your terms, as well as run special pay needs like termination pay once the season ends, or also our off-cycle payments. And then lastly, optimizing payroll configurability, making everything to be tailored to your business. This is something that helped Parks and Marina out a lot. They weren't relying on a third party with a boxed in solution. They were able to set up things to account for their seasonal shift, unique to their business. So being able to use an in-house solution allows you to have that flexibility to handle your various pay types and your various pay schedules. So next, you want to be prepared for the shorter payroll cycles before the holidays. So bank closures around holidays can lead to shorter pay cycles. So planning is essential. You want to make sure you coordinate with your banking partners to ensure payroll is processed before any closures that might cause delays. And you want to communicate any changes in your payroll schedules to your employees in advance to avoid any confusion or employee dissatisfaction. If they're wondering where their paycheck is, where is their paycheck coming, you want to be able to clear up that confusion by communicating beforehand when employees should expect to receive their pay. And then lastly, you want to uphold compliance during the seasonal shift. So you want to make sure you're classifying your employees correctly, whether they're full-time, part-time, whether they're a permanent employee that you'll work with inside Greenshades, or whether they're a contract employee. So this will also help you be prepared for the year-end season, kind of skipping to that last point when you know if you need to file a W-2, 1099, you know what benefits they're eligible for when it comes to your 1095-C form filing, and making sure that you stay compliant with giving them those appropriate benefits. As well as you want to be sure you're adhering to FSLA guidelines. As a holiday season can get really busy, you don't want to sacrifice compliance with your automation. That's the great thing about Greenshades. We help you to automatically stay compliant. So based off that employee's work location, we'll make sure that they're adhering to the overtime laws based on that location, the minimum wage laws. So let's say you have a tipped employee whose wages do not meet with the minimum wage standard, we will adjust their payments to make sure that you're staying compliant, as well as handling garnishment orders. So if you are running special pay runs, you can ensure garnishments are attached. You can ensure they're deducted in an equitable order and they're cut off by the order date.
And so now let's bring it to the wrap up. There's a lot to take into account with seasonal workers and holiday hiring. From payroll and HR to tax, benefits, time and labor management, all of those factors are going to affect your new hires and it's going to affect their experience with the organization. But Greenshades can really help out with simplifying all of those workforce management considerations that need to be taken into account.
Remember, I think one thing that really stands out about Greenshades is really that in-house flexibility, something that Parks and Marina was really able to leverage. So if you are dealing with complex workforce changes, that can be something that can be helpful for your organization.
Yeah, so for some of our key takeaways, that seamless integration of seasonal employees is really important. So ensuring they have a smooth onboarding process and accurate payroll setup so they don't have to worry about running back and forth to get their onboarding taken care of, and they don't have to worry about their pay being inaccurate because as an employer, you should have all of those calculations right at hand and available to you through whatever software you're utilizing. It's also really important to ensure you're handling holiday pay and bonuses accurately. So if you have any differential pay like holiday bonuses or sales goals that employees need to reach to ensure they receive some additional pay, you need to make sure you have a best practice in place and you are calculating those holiday amounts accurately and consistently. And then you also need to ensure that you're adapting dynamically to various pay schedules. So if you have employees who are working overtime or who are receiving pay off cycle, you need to ensure that you're doing all of those things in compliance with both state and federal guidelines and ensuring that everything's accurate each pay period so employees know that regardless of when they work and how they work, they're receiving accurate compensation for their hours.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you would like any more information or if you'd like to see a personalized demo, feel free to reach out to us today. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.